This weekend, I joined a hackathon and learned a painful lesson about the limitations of vibe coding. The hackathon was on Saturday and it was 7 hours long. You started at 7. Final submissions were you started at 10 a.m., and final submissions were needed at 5:30 p.m. They gave us $100 worth of credits for Replit, and we were supposed to use Replit alone to build the product or service. The goal was to build something that was commercially viable and something that didn't look like it was vibe coded, because that now is an issue. So I got to work. I went about building a map of the Internet of Interests. The idea being that because it costs nothing for anyone to create content, there's an explosion of new content, with people creating content about things that 20 years ago would have been too specialized for anyone to invest the money in creating something for TV about the subject. I can make TikTok videos and YouTube videos like I'm doing right now, and as a result, the subjects on the internet, the width and the breadth of what's out there has grown through time. And it's kind of hard to know what's out there. Some things are completely harmless, like some people who are interested in competitive puzzle solving. I saw a video about that. I had no idea that existed. It does, and people really derive a lot of pleasure from it. Some people are interested in knitting and crocheting, and there's a sub-community on the internet for that, or a niche interest. Some people are interested in being moral pirates or ethical pirates, where they will go out and find ships who are trying to capture and kill whales near Japan, for example, because that's something that Japan does often, or Japanese sailors do, and try and either submerge the Japanese whaling ships or stop them. That's another interest. But then there's darker interests, like looksmaxing even, where if you are someone like Clavicular who's doing tea to the point that you're infertile, who is using meth to stay skinny, who is using bone smashing to make the bones on your face regrow in a way that makes you look more attractive, I think, or more masculine, I think that those can become more harmful. And then it gets even darker, where you go into incel culture, which is a sub-niche of people who are lonely, and I think trying to blame their loneliness on women. It's dark out there. All this to say that it would have been nice if there were a way to find out what all of the interests on the internet are. Because that way, one, you can keep track of what people are finding interesting, and you can learn about things that you had no idea about before that you would like to learn more about. Two, if the niche is underserved by products and services, that allows you to make products and services for the niche. Sometimes these niches can be a very specific demographic that badly needs products and services. It might be a group of people who are suffering from an incurable disease that no one else can understand, but who still ought to have attention paid to them and attention paid to what they are suggesting can be done to fix any issues. And then lastly, I think governments could use a map of the Internet of Interests to see what's going on, to pay attention to what might be a risk in 1 month or 1 day or 1 year from now. So it seemed like a map of the Internet of Interests would be worth building, and I set about to do exactly that using Replit. I first chatted with ChatGPT about what the solution for this could look like, and we decided on building a map based on what topics people on Twitch would comment on, which made it likely that they would also comment on another topic. And that lets you see the clusters of interests and then how those clusters relate to each other. It was a really nice idea. So I got ChatGPT to write the prompt that I would add to Replit, and Replit did an amazing job of building out the first draft. It got it to work, and you could see, if someone likes these streams, then they're likely to like those streams. If someone likes Minecraft, then they're likely to like, I don't know, cat videos, something like that. It was doing a great job, and it took me around, what I did this time was I spent around 3 or 4 hours on the idea and the presentation, and then I spent around 3 hours on the actual project itself. Everything was looking great. I get to 525, 526, and the submission deadline is approaching. So I decide, okay, let's submit. So I press publish, I copy the link, I paste it into the form, I paste a link to my slides into the form, and I press submit. Then I go to an incognito tab and I check to see if my website is working. It seems to be working, but it's loading, and it's loading. And so then I turn off my computer and I check again in half an hour, and it is still loading. And it is just loading nonstop. Needless to say, I did not get invited to present to the rest of the competitors, but I was frustrated because I just spent 7 or 8 hours of my life using this product that was supposed to build stuff for me, and it ended up failing at the end. And I didn't learn anything. That was the issue. The issue was that when you work hard on something, when you put in your effort, things usually don't go to waste. You might work really hard on writing an essay that no one ever reads, but 5 years from now, you may be writing an essay, another essay, and the skills that you developed while writing the first one will come in handy. When it comes to vibe coding, when it comes to software engineering, you will usually find that even if you spend 7 or 8 hours wrestling with the complexities of the internet or of a system that you don't understand, even if you get nowhere, after those 8 hours, you are a better software engineer than you were when you first started, because you have gained a better mental map of how the internet works and how the system works. And that's how I have learned as much as I have about how software engineering works. It's through trial and error and a lot of pain and a lot of persistence. I brought that same philosophy to vibe coding, and I put in effort to try and use Replit as an end-to-end development program. But it didn't work at the end. And this is not Replit's fault per se. I mean, I don't know why it didn't work, but it didn't work. The fact, though, was that it was quite frustrating that I had wasted those 7 or 8 hours of my life, because it's not clear that I learned anything from the experience, other than I should not be using AI for building end-to-end solutions. It was quite frustrating. It reminded me of, when I think of AI, I always think of the scene from Fantasia and The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where the magician assigns his apprentice to clean the workshop, but the apprentice has other stuff he would rather do. So he tries to use magic to clean up the entire workshop instead, and it seems to be working. He gets the brooms to start sweeping the floor, the brushes to start scrubbing the dishes, and so on and so forth. And they all go along to a merry tune as the apprentice goes away and does some other stuff. But then he comes back after an hour and he finds the workshop in complete disarray, because the individual components, the brooms and the brushes, go crazy, wake up all of the other brooms and brushes, and then make things even worse by using too much water and sloshing it about, or taking brooms and brushing away things that aren't actually garbage into the garbage. And it was just a complete mess. So the apprentice goes and tries and stops them individually. He fails, and it is only when the magician walks back in to check on the progress of the apprentice that the chaos can stop and the apprentice learns his lesson. And I think the lesson from that scene is that you should not automate that which you cannot do yourself. AI is like magic. It can do things for you that you cannot do yourself. But when you do so, you have to be aware of the risks of that. One of them is you're not going to learn anything by prompting AI to do stuff for you. And then the other thing is you might be putting into action automatons that will make things worse for you rather than better. So I decided that what I will try to do with AI moving forward is only use it to do things that I can do by myself, but faster. And I think that way I still learn about the architecture and how stuff works, and I still gain extra skills, but I'm not slowed down by unnecessary drag. I think the balance between using too much AI and going too slowly is a hard one to master, but it ought to be something we aim for, because I don't think the answer is no AI at all. I also don't think that the answer is ask Claude anytime you need to do something hard and it'll automatically do it for you. It's just not worth spending 24 hours trying to get the system to do something that you can do a lot better than it. And as for hackathons, c'est la vie. It's always good to compete and participate and see what can be made using new products. So it was a good hackathon. I don't regret going. I just regret that the final product did not work and that things were going well on Replit up until I pushed to prod, and then it stopped working. So that's what I regret the most. Thanks for watching.